Hey guys, still here. Welcome to Wargame. Today I have a really exciting replay for you. This is Colonel Talbot, who is not actually a colonel yet. His ranked rank is... Ranked rank? Really? Well, I suppose so. His ranked rank is Corporal, and he's going up against a second lieutenant called Lieutenant Man-Catty Wanderer, I believe. Now, he says that this is a ranked game that he had against a second lieutenant. Being only a corporal, he had a decent opening, but he's going to, well, suffer slightly mid-game, as you will see. The interesting thing is that he's going to be operating with a Commonwealth motorized deck. I find that to be a rather large leap of faith, because as he also mentioned in his own description, he says it has no MLRS, no super heavies, no anti-air helicopters, and so on. This deck misses quite a few of the more important units that you expect in a ranked game. So he's actually quite fortunate to get a map like this, where the infantry of all these motorized units can be quite effective. He also said the deck is built around the Lynx helicopter. So he's not particularly using a lot of these motorized transports, but going for helicopters instead. And this is going to be a very important element in his strategy later on. Now, a motorized deck, as he mentions, it misses a lot of the units that you normally expect. You get rarely any fire support vehicles, you do not have the opportunity to bring in any heavy tanks, absolutely no chance of bringing in super heavies, and while your infantry is good, it's going to be tricky to make up for something like that. So he's going to have to work rather hard in order to compensate for these, well, deficiencies in his deck, really. As you can see, he's starting out with a couple of defense markers or help markers, not so much to communicate with any of his teammates, but to probably order his own thoughts, to give an idea of, okay, what am I going to do, what am I going to capture, where am I going to go. The first opportunity is on the right flank, trying to capture these buildings, and if you have the Lynx, which is a 300 km/h helicopter, then you have a good opportunity to capture these things before the enemy gets there. He's also going to try and land some forces here, operating potentially towards this building, or these set of buildings over here, trying to get a good foothold in the middle of the map, and if you have the opportunity to land an HGM, that will completely lock down the area. Albeit with the exception that the HGMs that you can get are only 2450 meter range. They are not fantastic in that regard. Now, his left opening is focusing on motorized units. We have a couple of Bisons as well as Wolverines in order to deal with enemy air threats. In the middle, he's also bringing out a Leopard AS1 Plus and an M35 reconnaissance unit, or at least unit packing recon. And you can see that the Lynx is already gearing up with their HGM buddies in the Lynx's AH7s next to them. Now, let's speed the deployment phase up and kick this game off. Important to note, of course, being a ranked game, it is not a destruction match. You're looking at conquest, which makes it all the more important to capture terrain and hold on to it. Now, since he deployed his command unit slightly after the game started, he gave the enemy the information that he is most likely using an infantry command unit, which immediately tells the enemy something about his deck and what his command units are likely to be. Now, Lynxes have deployed the Milan 2s already on the right flank. Not a moment too soon, because we have the French coming in a hurry. These guys, unlike the Milans, are packing fire support. Unfortunately, the Helos can more or less take up the slack from not having an autocannon nearby. He also has the Gazelle Snap, ready to deploy some rockets, but these guys only carry 12. He's also looking at some AMX 1390s and a couple of VTTs, seemingly taking out most of the transports here, so this flank is secure. What about the other end? Well, he's not doing so well there. This is where the enemy decided to rush in with a couple of helicopters and fast transports. And his forces are immediately going on the offensive and trying to capture these buildings before Talbot can do that. So the Pioneers, the Highlanders, they were all deployed before they actually managed to get to the structures. And fortunately, the French helicopters, those pirates there, were not able to actually get a lot of kills here. Seemingly getting most of his infantry into cover, but he's not out of the woods yet, as there is still a lot of opposition in this town and his forces are seemingly going down pretty quickly. To make matters worse, the SCS down in the middle of the map is not doing that well either, being reduced to 5-man squad after starting, I believe, with a 20-man. So much for the SES. They did try to return the favor there against the helicopter, didn't quite get the kill. And this leaves his his middle flank, so his middle area, Delta Zone, wide open to attack. The Highlanders are down to 2 guys. He has 1 group of pioneers there. The Highlanders that we saw earlier on this end have all been taken out. And at this point, you could argue the game is over. If the French deck here pushes forward and reaches through Bravo and Delta, there is just about nothing stopping them from taking Echo and wiping out this game inside 10 minutes. Fortunately, he's still putting up some resistance in the middle of the map with the Pioneers going up against a couple of Legionnaires. Unfortunately, there's only 1 Pioneer left here and the other 10 are barely doing any damage with their SMGs at this range. I think that he was too busy micromanaging everything else to get these Pioneers close enough to use their napalm thrower or their flamethrower. So unfortunately, this area seems to be going down as well. Now he has been able to capture Delta, so he's not actually losing any points, as the enemy has only captured Charlie and Alpha. And he is doing quite right in Foxtrot. He seems to be pretty well covered, except for anti-air. Yes, the SAS do have short-range anti-air, but a couple of airstrikes later and you're going to see that there's nothing left of the SAS if the enemy really wants to go there. Another transport gets wiped out, and this is when he has absolutely nothing left. Bravo is just one desolate zone. Now he does have 1 Harrier, and this Harrier is going to be important as it is capable of taking out a couple of targets on the go. Already taking out a couple of helicopters and going up against a Tiger Hap there. Now the Tiger Hap is a stealthy little bugger, so it's going to be hard to find. And hopefully the Harrier can get a spot on before it manages to do a flyby. But look at this. This is supposedly where that Tiger is at the moment. The Harrier just cannot find it. Where did the Tiger go? Unfortunately, the Harrier is not going to be the one to answer that question, as it's forced to retreat due to a lack of fuel. So the only thing that is standing between his main spawn zone and that helicopter that might be approaching very quickly is 1 Lynx, which, let's face it, against an autocannon mounted on the Tiger is not going to do very well, a Grizzly, and 1 Wolverine. And that is without the potential of having enemy ground units infiltrate from the sides. So he's bringing in some cheaper units here. We have the Rover Wombat, a couple of these coming in to quickly patch up holes in his lines. And these things are only 10 points. They are not that likely to do a lot of damage, but you only really need to kill something worth 10 points to get at least your own investment back in points. So hopefully these guys can at least do some damage. Aslav PC moving towards the right flank and a couple moving towards the left flank, trying to patch holes and just reinforce the positions that he has. Interestingly, we have a very aggressive Bison over here in the front. This one was able to almost make it to the enemy spawn zone. Has been able to spot something. Looking at a Gazelle cannon over here. Unfortunately, the Bison itself has also been detected and will not really be making it out of here without getting a resupply. And that resupply, this far into the enemy lines, is not particularly likely to happen. So this thing is basically going to be sent out here to die, and there's nothing that he can do to save it. Then again, is it worth saving? It's only a 10-point Canadian unit, so maybe not. Time for the Vickers to move up. Driving in rather quickly, as they do. Immediately running into a AMX 1390, I believe. And wiping it out before the AMX gets more than 1 shot off. Now these things are nice and fast, but they have no armor, so his position here is very, very weak. He is, however, capable of holding the AMX 13s off, making sure that the enemy is not going to rush infantry right close to these Vickers, where the Vickers are not going to be doing that well. Now at this point, Mankati Wanderer has been able to capture Bravo, so he's slowly but steadily ticking up by 1 point every couple seconds. Currently at 84 points, and if he can keep this up for the rest of the game, there is very little that Talbot at this moment can do to counter that. Yes, he can capture Foxtrot, and he's about to. But then, either Talbot needs to push back, or he's gonna get pushed by Mankati, as there is still very little to hold off this left flank. The helicopter offensive could still pretty easily come in here, and is only gonna get stopped by these two Wolverines. You never know in these ranked matches. At this point though, it seems that Mankati Wanderer is just not doing that much. I'm not sure if he's consolidating his own positions. He very well might be. But this is the information that we have. And yes, I know I could switch to the neutral position and just have a look at what all the forces are. But this makes the game much, much more interesting. And to correct my last couple statements, Mankati Wanderer is Mankati Wanderlust. So this is the name of the second lieutenant that we're going up against. Now one pirate flies in, presumably as a bit of an offensive scout, not so much to actually spot anything or kill anything, but just see what the response is going to be. The response so far as AA goes, is only the Javelin GL that he has over here, and that's it. So the enemy now knows that this position, as far as NTR goes, is pretty weak. And that is something that could come in handy for him, as he might consider bombing this area now. Now, interestingly, the Bison is still here. It's holding position. It's not actually getting chased or hunted down by the enemy. So I'm not sure if he was able to spot it long enough for Wanderlust to get an idea that the Bison is here. At the same point, what's the harm? I mean, this thing is not likely to spot anything. It's not likely to do any damage. The only thing that it might go after is the command unit in Charlie. But then you'd have to cross either through this terrain, which would probably expend all of the fuel that you still have left. And then you have to hope that you're dealing with something that you can actually kill before you're killed off. So the Bison over there, nice little probe, but it's not likely to do anything. At least not anything very damage dealing. So here we are, mid-game. Blue has a pretty decent hold on these areas now. He keeps reinforcing with ATGMs, more recon, more AA. He has another Lynx over here to defend against potential helicopter assertions. But so far, it is remarkably quiet. Where is everyone? Where is Red building up his push? Because surely it has to come at some point. The question is when, and especially where. Because he knows that Delta might not have all the AA that it needs to defend itself against the helicopter push. Presumably Mankati Wanderer also has a more balanced deck, so he's able to bring out super heavies. If so, where? Where is he able to use these effectively, and how can Talbot counter these? There are so many questions coming at you when you're playing ranked. Because, at least for me, when I was playing ranked, it felt like it was a lot more pressure than a standard 1v1 game, or a standard 2v2 game. It just felt like it had a lot more riding on it, when it's just numbers on the screen. It's really not that important. Anyway, nice position here for the Milan 2s. They are getting reconnaissance information from the Recce over here, and to some extent some fire support from the Vickers over there, as well as a bit of AA from the Wolverine. And it seems that we may have an attack coming in from the middle of the map, as we're seeing a couple of these AMX-13 VTTs coming in. We just don't know exactly where they're going. There's another one. Here we go. This, however, is not what the VTT dropped off. This is a fresh group, or actually the existing group of Legionnaires, that the Assault Pioneers initially, or the Pioneers initially faced off against. Unfortunately, the Commandos are very, very quickly dispatched off by the Legionnaires there. And had he attacked with these two and the Aslav, he might have been able to kill them off. But these guys are just not going to provide enough firepower to deal with the Legionnaires at short range. Now both of his Vickers have been taken out, so he's immediately putting another Aslav 25 in this position, hoping to counter any attack by a super heavy that might come down this way. And the enemy has also spotted the Wolverine. The Wolverine is not quite capable of dealing with the Mirage. The Mirage is very capable of dealing with the Wolverine. So his little forward position here, this little stronghold that he had, not so strong anymore. It's been wiped out. Meaning that the Milans are now the forward position here. And this could work against infantry and, against transports. It could work to some extent against tanks, but they are not that likely to stop a concentrated attack of forces here on this area. So they only have 5 missiles left, and with an accuracy of only 45%, well, you're basically going to be hitting 3 missiles out of these 5 if you are lucky. And that remains to be seen. Now there's a little skirmish going on here between an AMX-10RC and one of these Wombats. The Wombats unfortunately did not really get any damage in, and as such the AMX-10RC just keeps pushing. This is a reconnaissance vehicle, so this one is very much capable of putting a lot more information towards the enemy than that helicopter was. It's also quite capable of dealing with these Wombats. So the Wombats were both taken out by the AMX-10. AMX-10 now taking fire from the ASLAVs, and as such is going to have all sorts of failures and then goes down. Now, surprisingly, the Bison is still there. Not exactly sure, but apparently Menkadi Wanderer thinks his flanks are rather secure. So he's not really paying attention there. He is paying attention here. This is where the next attack is going to be occurring. Chasseurs are deployed on a pretty far forward position here. The Aslav unfortunately was immediately killed off, but the Harrier might have been able to do some damage against them. And seemingly was able to take out one full squad of Chasseurs, as unfortunately the second Aslav also gets taken out. So we still have a lot of Chasseurs on the loose. We have one Javelin group defending this area, one group of Highlanders, one Bison out in the open, and that is just about it. There is very, very little at the moment that is defending this area. If these Chasseurs make it into the building, then they are going to be a nuisance to get rid of, especially if they get reinforcements. Unfortunately, this bombing run seemed to be going for this area in general anyway, and was able to take out at least a few of these Legionnaires, if not all of them. Time for a Leopard C2 Mexus to come in. This Mexus is now going to be able to help out the infantry here, and not a moment too soon, because they were almost at the building. Bison also providing a little bit of fire support there with its GPMG, and so far he's holding on to this area, but it is still very, very shaky. Now he has 15 minutes left on the replay, and 25 minutes left in game. So we have about 15 minutes to try and pull this game back. And at this point, this is where Red starts to really push on this area. Airstrikes are coming in. This is a Mirage 5F, and the other one is still unidentified. Presumably another Mirage 5F. And what he's doing is just trying to cull the infantry from these buildings. Surprisingly not getting a hit on the Javelin. I'm really not sure how these guys were able to survive. But at some point they were able to move from one building to the next inside their own block and avoid that bombing run. So his AA is still in place, but it only has one missile left. But we have bigger issues to worry about. Commandos in the front line are trying to hold off against Legionnaires and their transports. They were able to take out the transport, but then there's the Legionnaires, as well as another transport. So the Commandos unfortunately bite the dust there. And again, there is very little holding this area. We have two of these Aslavs, we have the C2 Mexus, which currently is not in a position to help out. But there's no infantry, there's no holding power there. So you're only going to have to wait for the infantry to come out of these woods before you're going to be able to do something. At this point, the Aslav 2502 was trying to keep an AMX-10RC at bay. The AMX-10RC, having none of that, stops, aims, fires and kills the Aslav 25. So again, his forward position is taken out. The Milans try to get the kill. AMX is just sitting there not giving a single fuck about that missile that comes in, as he probably is not micromanaging this area. And this missile very narrowly impacted, as a full impact would have killed off the AMX-10RC. Now there goes the AMX-10RC, but the Milans are almost depleted. They have one missile left, that's it. And we still have issues on the left flank. One Bison is trying to hold off a bunch of Rimas. Rima's apparently not that interested in trying to take out the Bison at the first moment that they saw it yet. He's just moving these guys towards a building, but this is when they had enough, take out their Appalachian and immediately wipe out the transport. So again, this position is being threatened. And again, it's still just one group of Highlanders, fortunately now with a couple of Pioneers for reinforcements holding this position, and that is it. Good luck holding this area. A couple more Rover Wombats moving towards the front line, trying to hold off the infantry that's coming out of these woods anytime soon. There we go, the Legionnaires. Unfortunately, Legionnaires are notorious for their anti-tank weapons, the Erics. And the Erics immediately wipes out one of the Wombats. Fortunately, not a high value target, but one less gun to fire back at them all the same. Aslav 25 rushes forward, very, very risky. And not a moment too soon were these guys offloaded, otherwise they would have been wiped out just as well as the transport there. So we still have two groups of Legion 90. Wombat tries to move forward, gets killed off, and we still only have the commandos here. This is going to be it, defending against these Legionnaires. But now we should be paying attention to some other location. We have two groups of SAS being deployed by the Lynx AH-1. How he was able to skirt around these lines? Not too sure. He must have stuck exactly to the edge of the map and then deployed the SAS. The SAS are, however, going to immediately run into a Gazelle 341F cannon, which will be able to spot them, and especially if they want to move by this unit, they're going to have to wipe it out. Fortunately, they can. They have the Stinger, so they can get a kill on the Helo. And they do. But once a Helo suddenly goes down there, you're going to get nervous about this position. The enemy immediately gets a flare that a unit went down there. And talking of units going down, Delta was just countercapped by the enemy, putting Mankadi Wanderlust at a temporary +2, but he's only moving his CV around here. But the CV is still there. Bombing run hits the ADATs here, does a lot of damage, but it narrowly survives. And as a Harrier tried to come in and deal with these Legionnaires, he unfortunately lost line of sight and was forced to withdraw, due to not having any vision. More chasseurs are coming in with their transports backing them up for fire support. And 40 Chasseur 85 against one group of commandos which has already been worried is going to be a problem. Unfortunately for the French, the Australians have an answer to that in the form of the F-11C. And it immediately wipes out all, if not most, of the infantry here. In the north, towards Charlie, we have these two groups of SAS. The one group has decided to take up a position where it might be able to spot incoming units, and the other one is going directly for this little area, which is a common hiding spot for command vehicles. This is basically a Hail Mary move, as there is very little that he can do at the moment to try and get these guys out of Delta, short of maybe bringing in the F-11C and just doing another heavy bombing run here. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing, or at least that's what I thought. But it was an electric voodoo that came in. Here's the F-11C. The F-111 instead goes for... Where are the bombs? He didn't drop. I think he was going to try and drop on these VTTs, which, I gotta say, are beautifully spread out. All of these things can provide fire support, but they were not killed off. At this point, the other group of SAS is getting a bit too close for comfort. They're trying to scramble their way to these buildings, as they're taking a lot of fire from the chasseurs and their VTT transports. So the SAS here are able to do some damage and basically provide a distraction for the other SAS group here. Now, we really gotta hope that a command vehicle is over here, because if it's hiding over there, then we're in trouble. But fortunately, there it is. AMX-30B command tank. SAS gets in close, takes out the AT-4 and hits the tank, but it's not enough. The tank is still alive, so the SAS fire again, neutralizing Charlie. Now, this takes a little bit of the pressure that Mankadi Wanderer is putting on him off. But all the same, he now still has to try and hold on to this area, making sure that the enemy cannot countercap it or regain their footing. But whichever they do, they're going to have to take out one of these command vehicles to do it. They're going to have to take out the command vehicle from Alpha, Bravo, or the one from Delta that they have over here. So the most likely option for Wanderer would be Alpha. But Alpha gives up 2 points. So then you'd say, well, Bravo, yeah, Bravo is a bit of a stretch to get there. It's going to take you more time, and all that time you cannot bring an aircraft or reinforcements. So the question is, what do you do? Well, this is what we are going to try to do. Wipe out the command vehicle here, as it's now turned into a game of hunting the command vehicle. A couple of heavy bombs hit this area, but no kill on the command vehicle. Where is that command unit? The main question should be, is the command unit even here? Because for all we know, it might be over here. This tree line can also house a command unit, and would be the position that is less expected, and as such would be a better hiding zone. In the meanwhile, the SES are still here. The Lynx AH-1s were trying to provide support. Unfortunately, they cannot penetrate the armor on the AMX 1390 there. The AMX 1390 coming in to trying to get a bit of damage in on the SES. Unfortunately, running into the Gazelles, sorry, the Lynxes. Wiping out the Bison. This is the lonely Bison that was up there in the front line. And now they're working their way through the Lynxes. So the only thing holding on to this zone at the moment, defending it against enemy command vehicles, is this group of SAS. That's all. Now the command vehicle was in fact in Delta in this zone, took heavy damage from this bombing run, but was fortunately taken out by the ASLAF 25 there, at short range with the Bushmaster. That now gives Colonel Talbot a +2, as he's been able to regain control of Delta, and now he's finally getting some income for himself, trying to get back. At this point, the commander has left Bravo. Interesting. This could be the position that we're waiting for. This could be the opportunity to move in and try to try to kill off that command unit as it comes back. Unfortunately, the SES here are already dealing with multiple issues. They were forced to withdraw against the 1390 there. They were able to, I believe, kill off some of the infantry that we saw here. But still, they have need of reinforcements, and a lot of them. Fortunately, we have a Harrier airborne. This Harrier, with its rocket pods, is able to do some damage against infantry as well as transports. The AMX 1390 is not particularly known for its heavy armor. It tries to come in closer to the SES and is about to spot them, and here are the chasseurs. They were not dead, not killed off as I had expected them to be. To make matters worse, we have a Panther coming in, and this could very well be the command unit coming in from Bravo. So what do you do? Because at this point, we have all sorts of issues. We don't know where the command unit is. It is possibly being dropped off here, which would be a perfect target. Yes, I believe it was dropped off there. It would be a perfect target for the F-111C, and that's exactly what the F-111C is thinking. After doing some aerial acrobatics, hang on, it decided to turn around again. Come on, buddy. Clark, you're needed on the front line. Time to deliver these bombs, and be quick about it. Nope, he's not moving. Instead, we have found the command unit. The Gazelle Snap was able to fly right over them, spot them, and now we have a very accurate position on the command unit. At this point, he's trying to run, but there is no running from an F-111C, and once again, the command unit is taken out. I'm not sure who got the kill, whether it was the F-111 or the Gazelle, but at this point, there is only one command unit left, and that's the one in Alpha. That's all that Mankadi Wanderlust has left. So now we need to hold on to this zone as best we can. There is one Gazelle Snap there. There's a potential command infantry or a command tank coming back, and it has just left this area, whatever it is. So now the game is on. Can we find it in time? To make matters worse, he's also dealing with a bit of a push here, but this does not really seem to be a well-orchestrated attack. The problem, however, is going to be all of these helicopters coming back. The Gazelle is not very capable of dealing with these helos. It has expended all of its ammunition and is not capable of dealing with the helicopters on its own. We need help. Urgent. So the Gazelle is trying to make its way outside of this area as a Harrier GR3 comes in and saves the day, capable of taking out the Tiger helicopter. That's the dead Tiger over there. Now, what do we do? Well, there seems to be no enemy AA here, except not of the radar occasion, as this aircraft was damaged a bit. And look at what we have coming in. Lynx AH-7 with command infantry no less, as well as a couple of Lynx AH-7s with some 20mm guns, against the 20mm gun mounted on the Gazelle. Unfortunately, they're first going to have to deal with the infantry that's still hiding out here. And hopefully we can deploy the command unit soon enough to either cancel out the command unit that's being deployed from Alpha here, or at least bring it in and hope to capture this terrain long enough to bring in some reinforcements of his own. He's also getting a nice +4 ticker, as the enemy has no command zones whatsoever. And at this point, really the question is, who gets here first? If the command section gets there first, and the enemy command unit is countered, then that's the end of the game. If the HQ section is somehow taken out by, for example, the cannon here, the Gazelle, then we are still in trouble. F-111C comes in, tries to drop potentially on what might be the last known position of the Gazelle, doesn't quite get it. He captures the area, his new helicopters swoop in to try and do some damage. We still don't know where the enemy command unit is, but this might be it. A VTT is coming in, and there is really very little that he can still do. The VTT, if it gets here, is going to get wiped out by the Lynxes here. Unfortunately, the Lynxes now get wiped out, but at this point he can bring in reinforcements. So he's bringing in a Mexis, an ASLAV, ADATs, further helicopters, including a Lynx 3, captures the FOB, and at this point he has completely won the game. There is nothing that Wanderlust can still do to try and come back from this. And this game was an incredible comeback. Looking at how his position was so weak at the start of the game, in Bravo, in Delta, the only strong position that he had was on the right. But he was able to come back from it, despite taking quite heavy losses at the start of the match. And at that point, I believe quite a few of us would have said, you know, fuck it, I'm not going to be playing this match. I basically already lost. Not Colonel Talbot, he was able to come back from it, and he showed us that situations like these, despite having a what might be considered subpar deck, can really be salvaged. So very, very well done to Colonel Talbot there. And if you have any ranked games like these, be sure to send them in, because comebacks like these are very, very good. Hope you enjoyed that game. I really enjoyed watching that, covering it, and I hope you did too. So let me know what you think of it down in the comments by hitting that upvote or downvote, or by sharing your commentary down in the comments. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for more videos.